ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनाम् उपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ तत्सत्। In our ongoing discussions based on sadhana panchaka, the structure of growth towards perfection and self-knowledge, which is liberation, as given in the text Sadhana Panchakam, which was given by Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya. Today's discussion is about the teaching Bhagavatah Bhaktir Dridhadhiyatam. We saw in that stanza, which begins with Sangaha Satsu Vidhiyatam. That one. So we saw about elaborate about satsanga and the issues and all that, and how to deal with it, and how to tune oneself into the satsanga. All that we saw. And then the point of the satsanga is to help us to what are we supposed to do in the satsanga? Are we supposed to get busy doing social service, get busy in all the administrative and political activities of the ashram? Of course, we have to do some seva. Any sangha that you join, some kind of seva is expected. But it should not be all consuming. The point of joining a satsanga is to steady our devotion to Ishvara that we have already cultivated while we were in our normal secular active life, before we took up to full-time spirituality, when we were having a job and other things and responsibilities, domestic responsibilities and all that. We have developed that Ishvararpita Buddhi. We have developed a attitude of accepting life as the prasadam or the blessings of God. Okay. Anything that comes to us without our effort or as a result of our efforts is taken as a blessing from God. Ishvararpita Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi. We saw about that. So that cultivates that connection, that living connection with the God principle by diminishing the attitude of I and mine, self-assertion. Diminishing the functional self is the central point of Ishvararpita Buddhi and Bhagavataha Bhakti. Devotion to God equal to diminishing of the functional self at the altar of the Divine Supreme, which is represented by the knowledge. The altar of the Divine Supreme, which is conceived in our mind based on the teachings of the Veda, the understanding that we have cultivated. How the understanding comes, that is why we start, the whole teaching starts with Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam Tad Uditam Karmasvanushthiyatam. right? So if you have studied the Veda and lived a religious lifestyle and practiced some disciplines and all that, and cultivated the attitude of surrender, etc., by now this question will not arise. That is why this step by step. So when all the previous steps are taken care, we need is only the right context to develop the one pointed devotion to God. Bhagavato bhaktir dridhadiyatam. Seek to develop the one pointed focus and devotion to God. So here there are a few aspects. One is the concept of ekagrata, one pointedness. Ekagrata in terms of ability to meditate on God with through the mantra and the meaning of the mantra at the mental level, right? At the level where there are thoughts. What is this meditation on the mental level? For example, when you are listening to this discourse, or when you are in some other task, right now you are listening to this discourse, you are thinking, but there are also background thoughts, right? Mind brings something up from memory. I may say some words that might trigger a memory. Something may be happening in the room where you are sitting that might drag your attention. Now, the call for your attention, right? The demand for your attention comes from both outside sources and inside sources. Outside, the things in our environment. Inside, memory, basically memory. That memory triggered emotions, etc. Right? And the subconscious triggers that are activated by the subtle inputs from the environment that is outside that you may not have noticed consciously, but it keeps triggering background responses and triggering background thoughts, because what we call nowadays as the vibe of the place, we say, right? So the vibe of the place invokes a certain quality of the background. That's why you feel different in a temple and you feel different in a slaughterhouse, or you feel different in a mall or a theater. You feel different in your own room. You feel different in a friend's place. You feel different in a person with whom you don't gel. Complete stranger, you go in a public transport, you are comfortable next to somebody else, you are not comfortable next to somebody else, right? So these are all background triggers from the environment, and there are also background triggers from memory. It's a whole big cycle, right? Now, one pointedness means meditation on God at the mental level, using the mantra and dwelling upon the meaning of the mantra, which is God, the God concept. Okay. Now, this means this background attention, right? So something from the background calls for your attention, right? So that zone of the mind must align with the mantra and the visualization of the deity, and must enjoy the meaning and the feel of the mantra, must enjoy the vibe of the presence of God in you. That background attention, whatever in the background force of the mind, that should flow towards God, the God idea. That is represented by your mantra. So in this context, we said we are going to use the guidance from Upadesa Undiyar 4, 5, 6, 7, right? The shlokas. So before we go into the actual technicality, we have to consider a few aspects about devotion to God. We have to remember that this is a step, Sopana Panchakam, the 5 verses which are like steps, right? Excuse me. So, joining the Sangha is one step. The next step, steadying your devotion to God. What is this devotion to God leading to? What is the next step? The next step will give us a pointer to how we must conduct, or the why and how of the current step. Devotion to God should develop Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, who should help us to develop Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. We apply the context of Satsanga, we use the context of Satsanga in order to practice the one pointed devotion to God. When we are practicing the one pointed devotion to God through puja, japa, and meditation, the three steps basically puja, japa, meditation. Okay, ritualistic worship, repeated chanting of the mantra, and mental chanting of the mantra with appreciation of the meaning of the mantra. Tad japas tadartha bhavanam. Now, this will generate what you call as samskara. I have always said, in all the practices that we do, we are generating the samskara that is required to carry us forward. Now, this samskara is the kind of a mental force that is cultivated in the background. Like a magnet, it will attract towards itself all the energies of the mind. This is the nature of samskara. Any samskara, the subtle tendency or a what you call as a cultivated interest, a cultivated love. Here, bhakti is love of God. This love of God becomes a force in the mind, a samskara, a intrinsic force in the mind that brings towards itself all the energies of the system. You can experience the power of samskara in every situation where your emotional attachment is involved. A, a person who is, let us take a child, right? A child, a teenage person, as they grow and becomes a teenage person, may be very rebellious and restless and all that, but somehow one person in the family or in the friend circle, when they talk to that person, they suddenly become very calm and they are more receptive, no matter what is the level of anger. They become more receptive and they're able to calm down and collect themselves, get back to themselves and start seeing sense, no matter what is the mood. Right? Now, when this person comes in front, the relationship between this teenager and that person has been developed over a period of time and has created a samskara of receptivity. Now, the moment this person comes into his field of attention, either through a phone call or in person, immediately that love or that whatever is the connection they have based on the relationship, it comes up. And because of the strength of that association, the samskara, all the resources of mind are sucked into it, and the person becomes immediately completely available to the presence, to that moment, to that connection, to the presence of that mutual connection. It becomes alive to that, becomes completely available to that moment, to that connection. Right? All the resources of the mind, the prana becomes, the emotion calms down, the anger calms down, because this generates a certain positive, pleasant feeling inside. Immediately, all the resources of the mind and the prana and the senses become available for this direction. That is the power of samskara. So, what we are talking about in bhakti or devotion, cultivating the devotion to God, strengthening dridhadiyatam means seek to strengthen it, means the bhakti samskara, develop that very strong samskara of the mind's orientation towards God. God related idea, the concept. Now, what we are talking about here is the concept of God that is generated in our intellect, in the mind, with the help of the Shastra as facilitated by the Guru. So, that is what we are talking about here. The God here is the God in our mind, but in tune with certain laws or spiritual laws that makes it possible to resonate with that God principle that is all around us and inside us. That principle that sustains a principle or an aspect of God, the Ishvara Tattva that is in and around us, and which is present in everything, that intelligence, that supreme, divine supreme, the intelligence, that presence, it invokes that presence through the structure in the mind. Okay? So that is why we need initiation and sampradaya and all that. It has a certain power. A lot of great masters have done upasana through that mantra, and it has a certain aspect of functional reality to it, and it has a certain intrinsic mystic potential. So a mantra, a proper mantra given by the proper guru that has come in the proper parampara has a mystic power associated with it, which works, in ways that we cannot understand with the mind, because it does not follow the normal everyday laws that we have. I'm not trying to create a big mystery here, but I'm just telling based on my own experience and what many masters have said. How it works is we may not be able to understand it very logically, because it is a very it invokes and connects to an intrinsic intelligence that is present all around us in everything, in every object, in every living being and non-living being, and inside us and outside us. That which creates, sustains this universe and dissolves when something's relevance is over and transforms. That's supreme intelligence that is at the base of everything. What we can call probably as a cosmic intelligence, Ishvara. Right? Now, it functions. I say it as a it because I want you to understand Bhagavan as a principle. First, once we understand Bhagavan as a principle, then we can personify that principle as Bhagavan or Bhagavati, as a god or a goddess. Okay. But it is interesting that in this Bhagavataha is a masculine, is used as a masculine. Probably because it is a convention, or probably he is indicating it is better to, for the purpose of moksha and uh, all that, for the purpose of developing vairagya and one pointedness, it is better to invoke the divine supreme as a masculine principle, because the focus is more on the intelligence aspect, not on the material aspect. The intelligent cause and material cause, the concept we have discussed in some class long ago. God as the simultaneous intelligence and material cause. Abhinna nimitta upadana karana. Right. So generally goddess is seen as the upadana karana. But when we talk about paths like Sri Vidya Tantra, we don't consider it like that. We consider as the divine supreme itself. Okay. So it depends on your tendency. So we don't have to, because he says Bhagavataha, We don't have to be very strict about a masculine form. But generally, the practice is Shiva, Vishnu, Rama, Krishna, like that. Generally, it is the masculine form when it comes to moksha. When it comes to one's one-pointed devotion, yogic meditation on God, it is usually masculine. It's probably because it is the most popular one. But it is not restricted to that. Once again. Now, this when we practice, so this devotion to God becomes a samskara, and it has a certain magnetic power that develops in our mind that is capable of bringing all our psychic resources, psychological, psychosomatic resources together in one direction the moment the name of the Lord is invoked. There is a beautiful example story that one of my gurus used to tell me about a Swamiji in Himalayas. He used to live in Vasishta Guha. He was called Swami Purushottamananda Puri. So he is considered as one of the three great masters of Himalayas of those times: Swami Shivananda, Swami Purushottamananda, and Sri Tapovanam Maharaj. These three people were considered as the great gurus of the Himalayas in the middle, middle to the middle of the 20th century until 70s or 80s. So this Swami Purushottamananda, he used to live in a cave for more than 50 years. He used to meditate in a cave called Vasishta Guha. It's a bit above Rishikesh. So people went and asked him. He's not, no, he just blesses by his mere presence and tapas, the power of his austerity and his divine presence. There is not much of talking, discourse, and all that. So he was representing tapasya. So he was invited to give a talk about the power of chanting the name of Lord, the power of chanting the God's name. Or he was asked about especially Rama mantra. What is the power of Rama Nama? He was supposed to give a discourse. So he started, when we say Rama, that's it. He went into complete absorption. No breathing, no heartbeat, complete like we used to read about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Like that, he went in. It seems he went into a complete absorption, total silence, and then after some time he came back, and he again tried. So when we say Rama, again he went into absorption. Like this, it happens some 2-3 times, and then he said, "Now that you have witnessed the power of remembering the name of the Lord, there is nothing more left to speak about it." And he went back to his cave. So this is a story. One of my gurus, on Swamiji, Swami Shantananda Puri, he used to tell this story. It's a beautiful story, right? So now this is an example of the power of generating the samskara. Bhaktir dridadiyatam means this. The moment you remember the deity, your prana should awaken. Even the mildest suggestion, something around you suggests the presence of the deity. Something that suggests the idea of God, especially through the form that you are worshipping. Something even mildly suggests that, right? Let's say one person is a devotee of a divine form called Ayyappa. Okay. So now it is Ayyappa season. Everybody is going to Shabrimala and all that. Suppose you are a very big devotee of Ayyappa. You're just going for a walk or something, and then some random something somewhere, somebody is selling Swami Saranam Ayyappa. You just hear. Instantly, it invokes a reverence, a fervor, a sense of devotion, and something. It will move something in your heart, and something will wake up at the extremities of your, your limbs. You will feel a sensation, a tingling, and an awakening in your toes, in your fingertips. Something waking up in the body. That is the prana waking up. The moment the mind is given the suggestion of the name or something connected with the deity, with the mantra, something connected to the form of the divine supreme that you are meditating upon, The sign that you have developed a good samskara is instant response from your system. When you sit for meditation, you purify the seat and all that, and then you sit and assume the posture, do your pranayama, then you do the basic nyasa, and then dhyanam, and then you visualize the deity. You just think of the deity and call the name. Immediately you will see the whole system coming together and becoming available for it. Now that is the sign that the samskara is developed. We experience the same thing with respect to worldly things. If you like a certain sweet or something, the moment you hear that, you have a little bit of an extra attention waking up towards that thought, right? So it happens in the dog also. It's that in animals also. So samskara is a very fundamental force in us. Okay, so that is connected to I, to myself as the functional self. I as the bhokta, as the experiencer or the enjoyer, the Anandamaya Kosha, is the most fundamental level of the individuality. After that comes the doer or the karta. So based on you as the experiencer, the enjoyer, the sufferer, whatever, you as the experiencer, based on you as the experiencer, the resources of intellect, thinking, memory, sense faculties, and attention, and everything is invoked based on the strength of you as the experiencer. How strongly you as the experiencer is invoked, based on that strength and the quality of you as the experiencer, the rest of the faculties are invoked. I have a friend, in his house there is a dog. It will be just sitting there, one German Shepherd. It will be just sitting. This guy has a jeep, and the jeep is every time used for taking the dog to the beach. Like we talk about, this operant conditioning, Pavlovian conditioning. It's basically conditioning. Samskara comes from conditioning. Okay. The moment they say no, the moment you ring the bell, the dog salivates like that. The moment he says jeep, the dog will immediately get up and then whoa, and then it will come there and start, getting restless and experiencer at the most fundamental level of individuality is completely aligned with the purpose of becoming one with God, aligned with God, aligned with the divine. So what happens is all the samsara that we have cultivated, no, and all these worldly attachments, likes and dislikes and preferences, the ego complexes, and this huge forest of uh, worldly attachments that we have cultivated over so many lives and complicated in this life, right? It's this whole endless set of mental conditionings that we have, which is based on the ego, that keeps on reinforcing the I and mine in every situation. It keeps invoking in every situation, the I and mine gets invoked, right? So this entire gamut of I and mine and these egoistic preferences, this whole personality is totally consumed by this power of the love of God that we have generated through the practice of meditation on Ishtadevata, on God. Ishvara Pranidhanat. Samadhi Siddhir Ishvara Pranidhanat. Yoga Sutra. By the practice of Ishvara Pranidhana, one gets perfection in Samadhi. Right. It has a certain intrinsic power. There are two things happening. There is one that is the result of the regular practice of meditation and our effort. Two, there is an unseen effect of a proper mantra that suits me. If I am given the right mantra in the right way, with the right accessories of practice and everything, it has a certain unseen effect of tuning to the most fundamental energies in my system and aligning them towards the divine. It has a certain effect. So each mantra affects us differently. So each divine personality, when we connect, it invokes a different kind of individuality from us. It invokes a different kind of a fervor and emotion. If I go in front of Lord Vishnu's presence in a temple, in a Vishnu temple, the feeling is different. When I say Narayana, the feeling is different. Vasudeva, the feeling is different, right? Krishna, 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 the feeling is different. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, the feeling is different. So the moment you achieve success through one mantra and one form of God, you obtain the ability to tune to any form of God, because you are able to tune your individuality to that divine presence at a very fundamental level. You gain that capacity. So initially we start with one where I am most naturally able to align my ego and individuality and invoke the attitude of surrender and do the practice, practice. Arrive at the practice of meditation. It is not forcing myself to meditate. I will have to arrive at the practice of meditation. So that is where the verses from Upadesa Undya are helpful. So it happens in 3 steps. In the devotion to God, the first stage has 3 steps. First stage is devotion to God as represented by the divine form, which has a mantra or the name and a meaning that is connected to a cosmic truth, and it has a power to invoke the divine presence because it has been initiated, and the mantra comes in a certain tradition and it has been empowered through a tradition, revelation and tradition. It comes from the source itself, and I have the subtle samskara from past life or this life or based on my qualities, a samskara, a tendency or a natural resonance with the vibe of the mantra and the presence of the deity and the quality of that divine form. So all this is Guru's job, okay, to find that. And then when I'm initiated like that, I am able to capitalize on this tech, spiritual tech, called the spiritual tool called Saguna Brahma Upasana. Technical term is Saguna Brahma Upasana. Bringing myself near, psychically near a divine form through the mantra and the practice of Upasana. Okay. So in our tradition, we have 3 stages: karma, upasana, jnana. So Bhagavatah Bhaktir Dridadiyatam. Steady your devotion to God talks about upasana. Moving from karma to upasana. That is what this stage. Then comes jnana, which is comes sadvidvan upasrupyatam pratidinam tat paduka sevyatam brahmekaksharamartyatam sutishiro vakyam samakaranitam. That is jnana. Now this is upasana. Bhagavato Bhaktir Dridadiyatam. So the first stage of devotion to God is connecting to the God principle through a revealed divine form that is handed down to me through the tradition, along with a mantra. That is the first stage. Now, this divine form I worship ritualistically because I need to align the natural flow of my mind and the senses and the ego towards the divine. The natural tendency of my sense faculties, my mind and my ego is always towards things, right? I cannot simply take my mind take my sense of self, my functional self, my ego. I can't take myself out of attention, totally out of all the objects. You can try yourself, you just open your eyes, but don't look at anything. Close your eyes. There is already a tendency to open the eyes and look. Relax that tendency and just open the eyes. You are not going to look at anything specifically. You are not asked, you don't have intention to look at anything specifically. But the moment you open your eyes, from the background, your attention is made to rest on an object and move from object to object. This is natural. There is always, the attention always rests on a content, an object, a name and a form. This is the natural tendency of the mind and the senses. And there is a personal relationship. The moment the mind rests on something, there is a way in which you relate to it as I like it, I don't like it, or I am comfortable, I am not comfortable, etc. You look at a tulsi plant, it's beautiful, it's serene, it's comfortable, it's good for your emotions. Then you take your attention and you look at the trash can, it feels different, right? It invokes different. Again, tulsi plant, beautiful. Or a rose flower, beautiful. A jasmine, this night jasmine creeper, beautiful smell and everything. It has a certain effect, right? So the mind naturally and along with the senses naturally has the tendency to rest on an object, and the egoistic self or the individuality, the functional self, has a natural tendency to relate to the object, and through the enjoyership, through the samskara that connects me to the object. I, as the individual, I always relate to an object through the samskara that the object invokes in me. If the object has the color that I like, there is a samskara. But then I go near it and it has a smell that I don't like, then there is a conflict. I like the color, I don't like the smell. Right? Like this, sometimes I like the color, then I like the smell of the flower also. And then it is in my garden also. So, if I am able to enjoy the object and a repeated contact with the object that is pleasant, then if I am able to have control over the situation of my relationship with the object, then I start developing the sense of I and mine. Oh, that is my favorite flower. It's some park I go regularly. The park is not mine. The benches in the park are not mine. That is not even my city. But every time I go to that city, I want to go to that park because it's my favorite park. And in that favorite park, this is my favorite spot. And then because of some renovation, they remove that bench and the tree from there. They removed my spot. They don't have that spot anymore. How can they do that? I get very disturbed. My favorite spot. Right? So the I and mine by repeated association gets created whether I like it or not. So these are all my natural tendencies. So what we are doing in our first stage of developing devotion to God, we are reprogramming the natural tendency of the senses, the mind, the intellect and the ego principle, which is the doer and the enjoyer. We are reprogramming this entire individuality in the direction of love of God, in the direction of divine personification, a divine personality, right? So a divine personification. They say you should love God with the love of a miser for his money, for a unchaste woman for her, or for a man's lust for a woman, or a woman's lust for her man. The love of a miser for his money, and for a dying man for his dear life. So, all the things that invoke our involvement. So, now every kind of involvement that is possible in our system is invoked and directed towards the divine. This is called Bhaktir Dridhadiyata. Now, that is possible if I am able to cultivate uh, ability to connect, relate with, and resonate with a divine form, a divine personality. This divine personality is called Ishta Devata, my favorite representation of the divine supreme, through a divine form represented by the mantra and the meaning. Right? So, this is the first stage of Ishvara Bhakti. We don't stop here. Now, in this first stage, there are 3 steps: puja, japa, dhyana. In puja, we are at the physical level, at the level of action. Action, speech, thought. Udal, vaak, ulat, tozhil. Okay. The actions, the job of the body, the organs of action. Feet, I go to a temple. Let us say I am a devotee of Lord Shiva. My divine form is Shiva. I go to a Shiva temple, walk around the temple. There is one beautiful Tevaram song, you know. It invokes every part of the body and says, "Hey, feet, why don't you do this? Hey, head, why don't you do this? And hey, tongue, why don't you speak only the names of the Lord?" Like that, he invokes every part of the body in devotion to, and gives auto suggestion to every part of the body to be involved in an activity that is connected with the Lord, with Bhagavan. Right? So, feet, I go around the temple, I walk to the temple, I travel to places that are connected with, that are known as Shiva Kshetras, the holy places connected with Lord Shiva, etc. Pilgrimage. Hands, whatever action I am doing it as an offering. I am taking the flowers and offering the flowers. I make food and offer the food. So all the activities that are associated with my hand, the various things my hands can do, I connect it to a meaning, to an activity that is somehow related to the divine form. So in a puja, what happens? I am using all my organs of action and the organs of perception to indulge in the divine form of the Lord. I am deliberately using the word indulge because it is that tendency of the mind I need to invoke. How I would indulge in a cup of chocolate mousse, a perfect chocolate mousse with 70% cocoa and the top quality single origin or whatever, all that thing, the gourmet chocolate mousse. I indulge, so that invokes a certain feeling, a certain involvement, a very organic involvement. So that organic involvement with the deity in front of me, I have to invoke it. So the puja brings that. Puja brings that organic involvement, and by the end of puja, when we are using pancha upachara puja, they say the 5 types of worship, uh, connected with the 5 sense faculties. We offer perfume, smell. We offer incense, that is also smell, and it connects with the element air. It brings a good feel of the place. Then we show the lamp connected with the sight and vision, connected to the form of the Lord. Then we offer some nice eatables, fruits, cooked food, the food that is cooked with a certain proper methodology. Certain types of food are considered okay for a certain deity and not something else. So my taste and preference of food is also aligned to the deity, because I am going to eat only the food that is offered to the deity. and that deity doesn't like this food. They say yakshanu rupabali, according to the character of the divine form, according to the quality of the divine form, the offering should be there. The offering should align with the quality of the divine form and the size of the and the size of the statue that is consecrated. The consecrated presence has a certain intensity. So the quantity of offering should match the intensity of the invocation in the invoked altar. The intensity of the divine that is invoked in the altar, the quantity should match that. Also, the quality of the food should match the quality of the divinity that is invoked. So, if I am worshipping Bhairava, there is a certain type of offering that is recommended. If I am worshipping the same divine as Lord Shiva, is a different kind of offering. What color of flowers? I offer flowers, and in the flowers there are colors and qualities. So it gives it creates a space, a beautiful the space and the divine uh, presence that is invoked. Flowers bring that, the prana aspect. So that is, they represent akasha. So all the five sense faculties are used here. All the objects connected with my five faculties, I tune them and I choose them according to the way that is relevant for my divine part, my favorite divinity, and I indulge in offering these various objects, and I I create a context where I adore this divine form in every way possible using all my sense faculties and my mind, my presence, my sense faculties, my actions. So this puja creates a from out to in. The meditation happens from out to in. So the outermost activities I align, then the next layer of sense faculties, then the next layer of speech, then comes the speech using the mantras. When I chant a mantra, I chant first verbally with my mouth in a way like a whisper that only I can hear, and then I relax my tongue and go to verbalize the thought, and then it goes into a pure idea, and then I stay only in that idea at the idea level, intention level, and appreciate the meaning. Vaikari madhyama pashanti para, there are four levels of japa. So first I do puja. So this puja creates that space, psychic space necessary to contain all the natural tendencies of my sense faculties and align them with the divine form. It's like a fence, it's like I am coming into a home and a room. I don't want any noise, so I close the windows and all that, and I settle myself inside a room to meditate. So like that, this body is the temple. So I am entering the temples. The way of entering the temple to invoke the Lord inside, I am aligning all my external faculties towards the divine, so that naturally my background cooperates for the next step. My background attention will get aligned and it will start cooperating, and allow myself to concentrate on the mantra, both in detail and in energy, both in the sense of tendencies of the sense faculties and also the prana. So when I do a proper puja, it creates and aligns, it invokes a certain quality of energy and vibe in and around me. That makes it very easy for me to maintain one pointedness during my japa or repeated chanting of the mantra. Then once I have done puja, I go to the next level, next step, which is japa. And the japa has many uh, stages of refinement. And the most refined level of japa is mental japa, where my tongue is very relaxed, the throat is relaxed, the jaws are relaxed, the body is relaxed, the breathing is very steady. You don't see any mental, it's pure remembrance. At the level of memory and remembrance, I recollect the mantra, I recollect the Lord, I recollect the divine form, and I align myself with the divine form. and japa, and when the chanting goes from the verbal level to purely mental level with zero physical urges, you don't feel any urge in your tongue, or it's purely at the mind level. Completely, all the prana, everything gets absorbed, and you are visualizing and remembering the mantra and appreciating the meaning, and you are living the entire. You are indulging in your love of God purely at the mind and your inner space in your heart. That is meditation. Puja matures, gives you the maturity and the alignment required for japa, and the japa matures into dhyana or meditation. Worship, ritualistic worship, mantra chanting, meditation. These are the three steps in the first stage of cultivating devotion to God. So when we do this regularly and intensely, and once in a while we take off and take a break from our activities and go into a retreat, and we strengthen this practice. So one of the things that helps us to strengthen this practice is called Purascharana. So there is a practice of chanting a mantra so many 100,000 times, so many lakh. For Namah Shivaya is 5-letter mantra. So it's Namah Shivaya, 5-letter, you do 5 lakhs, 500,000 repetitions. Every day you decide, I will do so many repetitions. So until you do 500 repetitions, you stay in a place, you do regularly. It's called Purasharana. So whatever is you have planned for how many repetitions in a day. So how many repetitions you do, 1/10 of that you do as a archana or offering the flowers. 1/10 of that you do as a homa, offering the mantra through a thing in the fire ritual, as a fire ritual. And then 1/10 of that you do feeding. So and you feed 5 people, one person for you offer lunch, and there is a way of offering the seat, and to 5 people who are in need of food, you do dhanam annadanam. So you offer 5 devotees of Shiva, you invite them, and then you offer them a meal, and and you give them some gifts and all that. This is called Purasarana. There is a method which does that. So in the tradition, we have a lot of very organized and perfected over millennia. These methods are perfected over millennia, tested and perfected and refined, and it is given. And when you just follow it with devotion and faith, just do that. You will see, without your knowledge, suddenly you will one fine morning you will see your whole background and everything. You are a completely changed person. You are totally aligned with the divine in a way that you never thought is possible for you. So the methods work, right? So we have this methodology that helps you to align your entire way of being towards God, and that is called one point, steadying the devotion to God. Then it develops a certain inner strength that allows you to invoke the presence and the grace through your connection with God that you have obtained from the practice of devotion and one pointedness. It gives you that inner force to bring back your mind from habitual errors. That's what is going to help us to, and you are using this power of Ishvara Bhakti to cultivate Shantyadi Parichiyatam, the sixfold inner wealth. I will say it's something like generating capital. Okay. If you want to invest and multiply and increase your wealth, if you want to create wealth, you need an initial capital, either as a labor or your knowledge, or you have some wealth as a capital, something, right? Something which you invest. So your time and attention and effort and tapasya is the capital that you invest to develop bhakti, and the bhakti becomes the capital which helps you to develop the inner wealth called shamadhi shatka sampatti, the inner wealth of shamadama uparama titiksha samadhana shraddha, mind control, sense control, withdrawal from unnecessary encumbrances in life, endurance and resilience toward the various pairs of opposites that we experience in life, and complete availability of the mind to pursue the self knowledge, and very deep level of faith and surrender to the teachings, to the tradition, to the teachings, and to the teacher, Shraddha. So all these are all inner wealth, and all this comes by the grace of Ishvara. And also this one-pointed devotion to God, when you practice and when you have cultivated this alignment with the divine, it will it will take care of all the little issues that you might face on the path. A very simple thing. You go into a middle of the forest, a true devotee who has really cultivated the one-pointed mind, the divine presence goes with this person. It will not make them, it will it will stop them from making wrong decisions. Even by mistake they have taken a wrong decision, it will stop them on the way and bring them back. It will bring the help at the right time, at the right place. You will not be at the wrong place at the wrong time. The right things at the right time, that is useful for your path towards liberation, everything will come to you automatically. You will end up with the right teacher, and you will have the right state of mind to understand the teaching. So all this, it's like a magical force that protects you, nourishes you, and takes care of you on the path to liberation. You generate that. That is the kind of wealth that is generated by Ishvara Bhakti. And also it gives you the right state of mind that is required for digesting the knowledge of self when it is revealed by the teacher. When you go to that great guru or whoever is there, to your Sadguru, the teacher who will impart to you the truth. Sadguru is a title. Okay, it might have been misused and abused by somebody else. Traditionally, we are talking about the guru who will reveal to you the truth. That person, you will not ask unnecessary curious questions. You will be completely available, and you will ask the right, what is to be. When you approach the teacher, what you have to ask, that also is being said. Brahmaikaksharam artyatam. It's given in Sadhana Panchakam. We will see that in the coming classes. So all that is taken care by the grace of Ishvara. And to understand the teaching as it should be understood, as recommended by the Acharya, as the Acharya, the teacher wants you to understand it in that way. The Advaita, having the tendency and the ability to appreciate Advaita. Ishvara anugrahat eva pumsam Advaita vasana nisi. So by the grace of God alone, Ishvara alone, a person gets the vasana or the tendency to appreciate Advaita. So Ishvara grace, tapping into Ishvara's grace, invoking and bringing Ishvara's grace, making Ishvara's grace a living reality in our everyday life, is obtained by devotion to God, which we have explained in all these various ways today. It is an endless topic, devotion to God. I can keep on discussing this for 10 years and still it will not be over. So I am giving only a broad idea. So based on the krama, the sequence given in the Upadesa Undiyar, I have come to the stage 1 of devotion to personal God, Ishta Devata Upasana, right? With the 3 steps in this, Puja, Japa, Dhyana, we have seen today. And the whole purpose of this devotion to the Lord is to develop the Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and to help us in Viveka Vairagya and in our path that will take us towards the knowledge, towards the self-knowledge or self-realization. Not for anything else. It is not for doing magic. It is not for going around telling that I am a man of God, and then you do some miracles or you do some healing, and then you go to save the world. Not for all that. But devotion to God is practiced one-pointedness only to help you to cultivate the inner wealth as an aid for concentration and as a aid that will, as a force of grace that will protect you and take care of you and the environment that you are in a way that is conducive for the journey towards Atma Jnana or self-knowledge. So that is the whole purpose of this devotion to God, but not as some kind of a mystic indulgence. I use the word intelligence in order to invoke the deepest sense of individuality in us to be able to align with. It is not for fun, or it is not for some mystic exploration and getting some strange experiences, but instead it is for developing Viveka, Vairagya, Shraddha, and all the sixfold inner wealth, and taking us towards the Guru and the teaching, and eventually self knowledge. Right. So with this, I will finish the class. If you have any questions, you can send it in WhatsApp, or you can ask in the next class, because it's already time. We will finish today's class with the Shanti mantra, and we will end it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vatishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tatsate. Thank you.